We are in a historic fort, very, very historic in terms of the slave trade. And then because the fort was purposely for the slave trade, we have slave pictures here to demonstrate how the slaves passed through before their final shipping to the Americans. Slaves will reach America in such condition, already dehydrated, because they walk for a very long distance. Never bathing, never washing, never cutting their hair. Held in the fort for 3 months. Sail on the ocean for 3 months. They will reach America already developing the dreadlocks in such. Slaves were punished severely. Caning and hanging of slaves. Ambushed faces of slaves. This one on the punishment. In a drum with hot oil or hot water. That is why you see salts in his eyes. You ever watch the film Apocalypto?
Apocalypto, yeah.
It demonstrates how slaves were captured in the hinterland and brought to the coast or to the big cities. Slaves will undergo medical examination as they are brought to the fort. They will pass through the age system. So all those who are older in them were excluded. They could live among their own merchants or their people who brought them to the coast. On the plantations in America, they will work on all these ones. So you are using the cotton, you are seeing the sugar cane. We talk much about Coromantee slaves. They were captured when they were performing their traditional rituals. And so you go to Jamaica and we have traditional worshippers over there. Even some of them will come from Jamaica and come and learn our traditional worship. So this is very common also in Jamaica, inherited from slaves that were captured from Coromantee. So we have Coromantee in Ghana and Coromantee in the Jamaican islands. Then over there, any small mistake made by the slaves will end him or her.
So this was in the Americas.
So this one was now.
There were 3 different ways of adopting slaves. What were they?
And the ones who were forcibly captured by the Europeans themselves. Those who came out from tribal wars. And those who were maybe substituted for deaths. And I told you of the younger boys and girls,
yes,
who were considered to be stubborn children and were battered for the commodities.
Which you almost fell victim to it. Yeah.
If I had been born in those days.
Exactly. Right. This is amazing. And we also see some pictures here.
Yes. A ship will look almost about 1,500 slaves at a time.
1,500 slaves?
Yes.
Wow.
In the 1800s.
Okay. And who is King Leopold?
King Leopold II was a king from Belgium. He lived in the Congos. He was so wicked that he masterminded the shipping of over 4.5 million slaves to the Americas. I mean, he instituted the idea for the chopping off of hands, and
he initiated that.
He initiated that, and that was adopted in Liberia and all those places.
Why was that? Why did he do that?
I mean, that is punishment.
Punishment. For human life.
For human life. That is why you see here, life of a man, death of a people. So he doesn't care for human life. Yes.
That's great information.
Yes. Women who fell victim to raping by the whites.
I can see some of these were actually from some movies that we've seen.
Yes.
But these are actual things that happened.
Of course, Kintakunti. There was no transportation. Slaves will carry governors and merchants to wherever they are traveling.
Like that.
Like that. Children were not spared in the punishments.
This is amazing. This is incredible. And we really appreciate you showing us all this.
That is why we maintain that for William was really a slave fort.
A slave fort.
A slave fort.
I see a lot of pictures here.
Yes.
These pictures.
It demonstrates how the slaves were being brought from the hinterland
To the fort.
To the fort. Yes. So they could recruit men, women, or in the usual chains. Yes. After the slaves passed through the medical examination, because they needed those who are very strong without no pain. So they first passed through the medical examination. After the medical examination, they were brought assembled in the courtyard. Yeah, so all here was the courtyard for the slaves, where the slaves were assembled before they passed through the auction room. So from here, after the assembly here, then they were taken to the auction room. Then in the auction room, they were auctioned for the whites. Then after the auction, then they were held in the dungeons to wait for arrival of ships. So I will introduce you to the auction. Presently, you know, the slave history has shifted to Cape Coast and
Okay.
yeah, because why? Historically, for William was the leading center for the supply of slaves. Unfortunately, after they stopped to buy the slaves, the fort was lying idle, and they needed a new function for the fort. So it was converted to a prison. And so because of the prisons, visitors were not coming. And so this one came about during the prison era.
Okay.
It has a structure, which was a canteen
Canteen. Okay.
for the prisoners.
Prisoners. But before that, it was all
It was
gathering.
it was all rocky like this one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and a courtyard
Okay.
for the slaves.
All right. Thank
And
you.
when it was converted to a prison, this one became
A canteen.
a canteen
Okay.
for the prison.
Thank you. So we would be grateful if you could take us to the structure.
Yes. The structure itself was the slave auction. And this gives credence to the fact that the fort was really a slave fort. Yes. And before we enter the auction room, we have the slave route over here. So slaves were captured as far as Chad, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso. They walk on foot to the coast. They had resting places like Paga in the northern region. Then in the center, in the middle belt of the Gold Coast, we have Salaka Slave Market. The last one would be Asinamansu, where the slaves had their last bath ritual to wash away the dirt that was accumulated during their many travels from the north to the coast. Yes. And that is why the ritual is referred to as the last bath ritual. So they bathed there, then after that they were distributed.
So it literally had no spiritual meaning. It was just because the last bath after traveling so many miles to get here, the dirt, to wash them away.
Of course, but you know that every river or a stream have a traditional
tradition.
Yes,
Exactly.
attached to it.
Because we have our gods.
That is the thing. Yes. So we can read that one also into it. Yes. So both of them, to
Was
wash out,
together.
yeah, it was together. Yes. Then they are distributed to the 14 castles. And because Anomabo was nearer to Asimans, merchants would prefer bringing their slaves to Anomabo than taking them to Cape Coast. That is why in the 1800s, Anomabo became the leading slave supply center on the Cape Coast, supplying almost about 464,000 against 381 at Cape Coast,
Wow.
and 255.
So Anomabo was the leading,
Anomabo was the leading,
which is Fort William.
which is for William. This one alone supplied almost about 280,000 out of the 464,000. That passed to me. I mean, we see here, and there is no forts and castles here, but all over here there were forts and castles. Yeah, I mean there was some at Axim. You come to Fort Apollonia, you come to Fort Louisa. I mean Fort Fredericksburg. They are all situated here. So in the beginning, Ghana had almost about 42 of the forts and castles spread along the coast. Yes.
So I'm looking at the forts. So what other forts would you say? I mean, there were fort. I know about Boutre. Where would Boutre be situated?
Butcher will be situated somewhere here.
And what was that fort mainly for?
I mean, all the forts and castles, mainly for the slaves. But you know, with the slave history, I used to say there was the densely populated area and sparsely populated areas. So when you take a Ghana map for example, from Elmina, Cape Coast to Asin Fosu, right down to Kumasi, these are densely populated areas
With slaves.
with slaves
Okay.
than the other places.
Yeah.
So once the forts and castles in the central region supplied more slaves because of the densely populated areas that they were situated, the remaining ones had fewer slaves.
Okay.
Because that places were sparsely populated areas.
Okay. So this is pretty much the slave route before
Yes.
our brothers and sisters or our ancestors left for the other shores. Okay, that's amazing. So we also see the slave auction here. Like we see a map of slave auction. Does this depict something of our past also?
Of course. Of course, the past, you see the dressing.
Yes.
And you see how they were dressed. I mean, it portrays the past. We migrated from a very far area like the Gao Kingdom or the Ghana Kingdom in those days, the Ghana Empire, Gao Empire, which is we also say the Ghana Empire.
Is there a meaning to that name?
I mean, Ghana is usually connected with gold.
Gold. Okay. So we can say
So-
we ancestors of Mansa Musa.
I mean, of course. My grandmother was called Mansa. So usually I used to think about Mansa Musa and connect it with the name of my grandmother.
My grandmother was Yamansa. Yamansa.
And you see that our ancestors were from that very far. So even when they were at that very far, traveling down to the coast for many years, they lost everything. Commerce, production, education, everything lost during the travels. That is why we were dressed in such way. Yes, because when we reach here, we have lost everything.
You've lost everything.
Yes, because we were always on foot. We were always on foot. So when we reach down here, manufacturing of goods, everything, we lost the idea, we lost everything, education, everything. Okay, back in those days, as you already said, it was the auction room for the slaves. I mean, it was a bigger place, but because of the prisons were added with washing basin and drying platform and the store, which has not made the place to become smaller. It was a bigger place where the merchants converged to auction the slaves to the whites. and you are looking at the original platform. And when we say the fort was really a slave fort, this shows the originality. Yes. This was purposely for the slave trade. You know, Elmina Castle was for the gold. That was why it was called, the town itself was called Elmina. Elmina simply means the mines. Because when the Portuguese saw the gold, they thought there were mines that produces the gold. But there were no mines. The gold was just part of the sand of the village. People were playing, trampling, and doing everything for gold. The Portuguese took opportunity to ship the gold for 130 years. That was from 1482 up to 1612, before the advent of the slave trade. Yes.
So they were shipping gold even before the slave trade.
They were shipping gold even before the slave trade. And even when the slave trade came inside, I mean, it was the slaves and the gold. It was the slaves and the gold. So in the 1800s, slaves became the main commodity on the market, on the coast. So a man or a male slave standing on the platform would cost 5 English pounds.
So the currency, we are talking today's currency equivalence, or it's more?
Oh, okay, we can convert it to today's currency.
Okay.
Because in those days we wouldn't know it's called conversion.
Conversion, okay.
So we can convert it for today's currency. You know how much a male slave was costing, how much a female slave was costing. But we have the younger boys and girls too. They were referred to as stubborn children. You heard that some of them were battered for commodities like the milk and the sugar and the tinapa and the corned beef and all those ones. These were the younger boys.
Oh, okay.
So referred to as stubborn children.
Stubborn children. What's the process they use in measuring the slaves?
Okay, the slaves is a good question. You know, they have years and they have the age, the height, as you are saying.
Okay.
So it depends. The age usually from 10 to 25 years. The younger boys and younger girls from 10 to 15, 14 years. Then the mature women and men from 15 to 25 years. And they have the height about 5 feet to 6 feet. So the exercise is that if you are sick, you are out. If you are overaged, you are out. So all those overaged from 26 and above couldn't make it. The sick ones couldn't make it.
When you say couldn't make it, does it mean they were killed or they were thrown away? What happened to
them? In that situation, you were brought by a merchant. So you stay with your merchant.
Okay. And he or she decides what to do with you.
To decide what to do with you. So in those days, you know, most of the villages and towns along the coast became cosmopolitan villages and towns. Why? Because people came from the north. They couldn't make it. So they couldn't return to their villages. So they lived among the people on the coast. For example, in Anomabo, we have a house with the name Sokoto House. And Sokoto is a big city in Nigeria.
So it means the Sokoto people that came here,
of course,
were the ones made of that.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing. So
you go to the Mina and we have a Niger house. And they all claim that their forefathers were from Niger and they came there during the slave time. We have names connected with people whose grandparents came and they couldn't go. Like Wanga. You know the Wangara people?
Yeah, Wanga, yeah.
So if someone, a fancy man is called Wanga, which simply means that is
from up there.
Thank you. So this is how I do my history. The connections.
Okay.
Yes.
So one question that I want to know, like, what were the devices used back then to measure them? And I know there's a space in the back. I want to know what it's for because it's really connected to the platform.
Of course. That one was for the younger boys and girls.
Okay.
It had a scale.
Okay.
and they were put on a scale. So the weight of the child will determine the quantity of goods that was exchanged for the child.
So you mean goods were exchanged for the children?
Yes.
So in other words, like barter trade, but in this term, you're changing, like you're bartering human life with maybe milk, sugar, tinapa,
and then corned beef
and all that. Okay, so this actually brings me to a very important question, that there are questions going on in the diaspora from our brothers and sisters, and actually people who are enthusiasts of knowledge. They want to know, why didn't you guys come look for us when we were taken from the shores of Africa? And another question is, why did you sell us? So this is a very important question that I feel you can actually give answers to, because it's out there, but there are less answers to know what went on.
Okay, thank you for the question. You know, for not going after them, you know, our people were not so much when I say in the fishing distance, they could not go as far as the Europeans could go. I think you understand.
I understand.
So we didn't have that vessel and that knowledge to travel that far in those days. Yes, that is why we couldn't go after them.
And with a question, why did you sell us?
That is the question I used to treat many times over here. And it's very disturbing when they say we sold them. Of course, maybe they don't know what happened in those days.
Yes.
What happened was that even when the Europeans have not landed on the coast, there were kingdom wars or tribal wars. Because even coming from the Gao or the Ghana, this thing, our ancestors fought with people, tribes, kingdoms, before finally settling.
And the fighting was for supremacy.
Of course, the expansionist ideology with supremacy. So, you know, I rise, I fight you, I capture you, all your people become mine. Become anything to me. I can just use them to do anything that I like. So for supremacy and expansionist ideology, the wars were there even before the arrival of the Europeans. Yeah. So what happened was that we didn't sell them, but with the arrival of the Europeans, after the wars, all those who became prisoners of war, instead of to kill them, after the kingdom wars or tribal wars, all those who were captured as prisoners of war, instead of them to be killed,
they were sold.
So even in that one, that saved the lives of so many people.
Okay. So yes. So in other words, in a nutshell, what you're saying is, because of the kingdom wars, if I capture you, let's say you are in another kingdom,
yes,
and I'm from a different kingdom,
yeah.
If you battle me and you win,
yes,
all the people behind me, or let's say my whole village,
your whole village,
you capture everybody.
Everybody.
So they become slaves.
They become slaves.
So instead of killing
them,
you sell them
to save their lives.
This is actually great information, because a lot of people don't know this. I don't know.
And that one saved the lives of so many people.
Wow.
And so not that we intentionally sold them, but we saved their lives through
the selling of them to the Europeans. Okay, so there are wars happening, and slaves being captured because they were defeated. Their kingdom was defeated. Where did the European or the white man come in? Because if I'm fighting, there's no white man around. Now, who initiated that move for them to be like, okay, we have slaves, come and buy them? Who initiated that whole movement?
Okay, we will say, with the arrival of the Portuguese on the coast, people in the MENA will tell you that they are referred to as Abricicacra. Why? Because Christopher Columbus rested in Fort St. George's, that is a MENA castle, for some months before he went on to discover the Americas.
Okay, so he was here before
He was on the Gold Coast before he discovered America.
I mean, discovered. That's in a nutshell, like he discovered
Of course. The ones were already there. So I refer to that one as international discovery.
Exactly.
Okay. So after that one, they needed people to work on various plantations that were springing up in the New World. And that brought this thing.
So that brought about. So they in other terms, they bought the slaves to use them in other worlds.
Yes.
The new world. Help build a new world.
To help build the new world.
If I can understand, somebody initiated the fact that there are slaves there and they could be brought into the new world. We actually want to know who actually initiated that.
Okay. There was a Roman father.
Yeah. A Roman father.
Yes. Who brought the idea. Not that the slaves were already there, that they should be, but he suggested the idea of using blacks
to build the new world, which was the Americas,
which was the
Europe.
Yes, which was the Americas. Yeah. So the British were the first. That is through Captain Hawkins, who was the first British captain to land on the coast. And he started with the capturing of the slaves. So there were those who in the earliest time were captured by the Europeans themselves. And that was the proposition of the Roman father, that blacks could be used on the plantations because the Red Indians were not so capable in working on the plantation that was springing up in the New World.
Which is the Americas.
Which is the Americas.
So, in a nutshell, slave trade, we did not sell anybody, like our own people. Ashantis did not sell Ashantis. Fantis did not sell Fantis.
Of course.
Chadians or people from Chad did not sell people from Chad. Nigerians did not sell Nigerians. It was just prisoners of war.
It was prisoners of war.
Who, instead of being killed,
were sold.
So, in other words, my question is, do you think slave trade was a good thing? Or how would you say it is? Is it a bad thing or a good thing? Being that, because you said it saved lives, because people were bought, it saved lives. Instead of being killed, that is.
Okay, you see, so I used to answer this question with the comments, in a sense that in any venture, there are gains and there are losses. So in the slave trade, so we say of the slave trade, there were advantages and there were disadvantages. And so we come to the disadvantages.
Yes.
And the disadvantages were how the slaves were handled. Okay. Right from the forest where they were captured, walking on foot to the coast, being held in the dungeons, the maltreatment associated with it, on the ocean going to the Americas, how they were dropped into the ocean. And these are some of the disadvantages the manhandling, how they were handled, how they were punished, and all these things. I classify all these things as the disadvantages of the slave trade.
Which is a perfect narrative of what it really is.
Good. Then when we come to the advantages, we will say, one, as I used to say, the slave trade saved lives of millions. I used to say, for example, one guy known as Brutil, he was from Chad, was a shepherd boy, captured through the tribal wars, survived the journey walking from Chad to the Gold Coast, was held in Fort William for 3 months, survived.
Which is here.
Okay. Survived the journey on the ocean, found himself in Rhode Island, the Virgin Island. He was brought here with the name Venture. In the Americas, his last master was Smith. So he came by the name Venture Smith. Finally, to end everything, he became a tycoon farmer residing in Connecticut. At the end of his life, he had almost 100 plots of land, 3 habitable story buildings, and lots of trolling boats. So, for example, if this boy had remained in Chad,
he would have been killed.
He would have been killed. But through that job, or through the slave trade, he found himself here, survived to America, had almost about 100 plots of land.
So he gained.
And so it's not only him, but through the slave trade, so many blacks have made history in America. They are great grandchildren of this time are benefiting.
So it's easy to say we are sorry for the past.
Of course.
But there's joy in the end.
But that is why I used to say advantages and disadvantages. The slave trade has so many disadvantages about it. Okay. But yes, those who found themselves in America.
Okay. So my question to you is, why the torture? Because people were tortured. Like when on a road here, okay, so we understand. Selling them kept them alive and they made their way here. Why the torture?
I mean, the torture was just to bring their spirits down.
Mm.
Oh, of course.
Because we were, I mean, because I know even right here we have Comante.
Yes.
Comante, okay. Because I hear the Comante, or the commentarians.
Yes.
Our brothers and sisters who were taken to Jamaica. Yeah. So literally, because we know they are hard-headed, like Yawson, like we have a hard-headed kind of behavior.
Yes.
We won't let you cheat us out of anything. We stand up for our right, and those are them. So they ended up in Jamaica. Is that a true fact?
Oh, of course. The Comanches. That is why Comanche is a very powerful word in Jamaica. Yeah. I mean, parks. I want to say most of their monuments in Jamaica are named after Comanche. Why? The Comanches were so very stubborn, but yes, they're very hard-working. So they mix the stubbornness with the hard-working. So even if the person is a stubborn, he has a value. Why? Because he's a very hard worker.
So yes. The name Jamaica, does it have a historic meaning to Ghana or some of our languages? Because there's a saying going around, it means something, but I'd rather, if there is, you say it.
I mean, I would say Jamaica simply means, as you asked one question, that they went there and they usually ask why we didn't go after them.
Yes.
So when they were sent there and they saw that they were stuck over there, they started asking themselves, Jamaica.
Jamaica, which means it seems
we are
stuck.
Something like that. Jamaica.
That's amazing. So yeah, I mean, because people have been asking me, and I think because I have brothers and sisters out there in New York who are actually Jamaicans, and they always have the connection with me, and it makes a lot of sense because I'm also from the coastline, so it's understandable.
Yes. So they took them there. They were not coming back. So Jamaica.
So it seems it's
Jamaica.
All right. On that note, I think this is great information. I would want us to check out a couple of the rooms that held the slaves, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so after the auction, the women, the women slaves, or the female slaves, the female apartment. This is an apartment. This is an apartment. It has 3 places or 3 dimensions. There was one for the local things. There was this one was for the mature women.
So it was divided.
Don't was divided. Yeah. And this one was for the concubines. For the mature women, we was about 200 of them.
When you say concubines, what do you mean?
I mean that a European did not own their wives.
Oh, okay.
So they selected some of the African women or the slaves
To be their wives.
to be their
They had concubines.
Yeah.
Yes, still they tell us you married one. That's just
They had
yeah.
Governor took more concubines.
Yeah.
I mean, Governor Groot took more concubines. Many of them. So they had concubines.
That's it. What's beyond that door?
Yeah, that one, that place was for the concubines.
Oh, that one was
The room.
So it's more plush, like refined.
Okay, because because you know people because authorities do not know or the citizens do not know that later the forts and castles will be an attraction for the tourism industry. They didn't know. So most of the important things in the forts and castles that would have been identifiable for the slave trade were all gone lost or something like that. Because the idea for the tourism industry was not there.
Was nothing.
So it is very bad. But only the different between here was that. In fact, in those days, the floors were not cemented. It was because of the prisons that the floor was cemented and the walls painted. Other than that, it was a stone floor.
Oh, okay.
So the slaves stood, squatted, slept, knelt, ate everything on stools in
The children.
and the children.
So what was the source of, I can see it's a those places. What's the source of air?
The source of air from the ventilation. That is why we have this 2 big holes.
Oh, okay.
So they had air.
Wow.
Yes. And I've been workers in in fact, in the beginning, the slaves were not allowed to bath for 3 months. But in the 1700s, they tried to lose some of the laws. So in the 1700s, the females here were allowed to wash once in 2 weeks.
Once in 2 weeks.
Yes. And the commonest food given to them were bread and biscuit. And that was acting the stomach to eliminate constant feasts in the dungeons. And because of that, toiletry was offered at the corners of the dungeons, like this one. This one. It was a toilet for the females who were here. It was because of the creases
That is cemented.
that was.
So the stench, the smell, everything was here.
Everything was here. But because they mostly ate bread and biscuit.
They barely.
Yes.
This is amazing. So how many slaves were kept here
Almost about 200 of the women.
in this little space?
And therefore, in those days, we go almost about 2,000 slaves a day.
A day.
A day.
Okay. So this is the women. We really want to know about the men. How they work it also. So this is the male.
Yeah. So this is the main diamond. And they were served. So they were put in chains for all of them. And the chains were fixed to the hand. As they were ended.
How many slaves were chained?
Oh, for the men, they were those who were going to do the work. Almost about 400 of them
In this space.
in this space, standing and squatting for 3 months.
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
They didn't go out.
They didn't go out. If you go out, that is about going to wash. And I told them the women wash once in 2 weeks. The men wash once a month.
Okay. Because they were working. They were dirty.
Yes. So they wash once a month. So they go out 3 times or thrice for the 3 months.
Okay.
Before they arrive at the ships. Yes. You could see their toilet, very vivid providing. You could see the books. And all of this one, because of the cement.
So this place was also stone on the floor.
Of course. This was also a stone floor. And usually there would be a question like if the Europeans will cover the whole when it is raining. And they don't cover it.
So it just rained.
They just rain here.
So let's say if it rained here, the feces over there would just be all over the
Oh,
place.
in everything. Everything.
This is amazing.
Yes. And because it was a stone floor, the rainwater will sink to the ground.
So there will
So
be
one
mud.
little bit, so yeah,
Mud.
water. And because of that, some of the men used to be very stubborn.
Because the commands in
And they resisted. And so because of that, they were, well, I would say, the men were in 2 groups. The resistant ones and the calm ones. And the calm ones would say, well, those who were not taking up any struggle.
like the guy from China.
Yeah, but those who were so strong, struggling with the work, they were sent to the condemned cell.
Condemned cell.
Condemned cell.
Still, we can take a look at the condemned cell.
Yes. So the condemned cell. Yes.
This is a small space.
This is a small space.
And
But as many as to prove to be stubborn.
it could be 200
It could be any number.
in this little space.
In this little space, they were all put in, chained to the floor.
Wow.
And their main punishment was to drop their food, the bread and biscuit,
Yeah.
through the ventilation hole for them to fight for it. It resulted in the survival of the fittest. The
So
strong
the
ones,
strong will eat.
the weak ones will go.
Wow.
And that was the punishment.
So, talking of, let's say if they want to go to private, let's say, they want to ease themselves, how do they do it?
They could have some small space here because they wouldn't let them go out in
And how long are they kept here
3 months
without going out?
without going out. Especially for the For the resistant and stubborn slaves,
Yeah.
you are not allowed to go outside.
This is amazing information.
Yes, so at least 1/3 of the slaves, through the punishment meted out to them in the forts and castles, will die before arrival of ships.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, as I was telling you that in the 1800, for William to hold was about 2,000 slaves.
Yeah.
And imagine 1/3 of 2,000 losing their lives
That's wow.
before arrival of ships.
And it's not like even when the ships come, they're gonna get better treatment.
No,
So it's still gonna be the same worst treatment.
still going to be the same.
This is sad, but this everywhere in this fort needs to be cherished, held, and I feel like usually, for Abankesi we do a celebration of life. So this is a place where we feel like we should really celebrate the lives, because we cannot just leave this place empty. We have to do something that will glorify Fort William, so we're definitely going to work on that. But for now, I think it would be best if you show us somewhere, because being here, I feel goosebumps.
Yes. So, after 3 months, with the arrival of the ships, all those who are alive, because some of them will die, so who are alive will pass through the gate of no return to join the ships.
Okay. So I think it's best time we see the gate of no return.
Yes, so we'll have a look of the gate of no return.
All right, cool. So this is the door of
No return.
Is it a gate or the door?
Well, gate
Or door is the same.
door.
Because most people think the door of no return is in Cape Coast. I mean, there's some there. I get it, Cape Coast Castle, which is cool. But this one, a lot of slaves went through it.
Of course. So with the chains and the shackles, with the arrival of the ships, the men in their chains, the women tied with ropes, passed through to join the ships.
So when they get out from the door of no return, what is the scenario?
The scenario was that the ships were at sea, about 1 mile away from the shore, because of the rocks. And when it comes down here, it will sink or something like that.
Yeah.
So the ships usually stay about 1 mile away from the shore. They were taken with the smaller canoes, paddled to the ships. When the ships are full, as I told you, almost about 1,500 ships.
Yeah.
They spend almost about 3 months on the ocean, referred to as the Middle Passage.
Middle Passage.
Yes.
Okay.
In between this Middle Passage, any slave who falls in was put into the sea. Or if there are short of ration, that is food and water, some of the slaves were sacrificed.
Okay.
And if there are storms to cause shipwreck,
Okay.
some of the slaves were dumped into the sea.
Oh, okay.
Like as it happened in 1781.
Okay.
When the boat Zong met a bad weather, almost about 132 Africans were dropped into the Sea of Bermuda.
Okay.
Hence the Bermuda Triangle.
Wow.
Where ships and planes were not allowed to cross due to
The
marauding spirits of dead slaves who drop on land.
So in that way, you could say the blood of the black man.
The blood of the
strong.
So strong.
Wow. So I've been hearing that story. So the Bermuda Triangle, the cause of all that planes being missing, ships being missing, is from that.
It's from that.
It's not science.
No, it's not science. It's not science.
Wow.
It's not science.
This is. I feel goosebumps all over me. So this is amazing. And so we know this where this fort is called Anomabo. What's the meaning? How did the name come about? Anomabo.
Okay, Anomabo simply means, formerly Obonoma. Obonoma. That is rock with beds.
Rock with beds. And where would this rock be?
I mean, when we go to the top.
The top. You will show me.
I will show you.
Okay.
One of the most sacred rocks, that is in Anomabo. We wouldn't see people tampering with the rock. So it remained very, very sacred because the village had its name from that.
So, whilst we're here talking of our brothers and sisters, our ancestors who were shipped away, one question that baffles me is, okay, so from the Caribbean, we have the Latin American countries. We know some went to the Americas. So, would you say our brothers and sisters, some were taken to Mexico, like, the Latin American countries, and who actually benefited most from slave trade?
Oh, okay, we'll say we'll talk of the Anglo-Saxon race. I mean, they benefited a lot.
Yeah.
Because even though the Anglo-Saxon race were in America, but the development that had gone on in America were mostly from the blacks that were taking
then. Okay. And who financed, pretty much who financed the movement of slaves to the Western world, to the Americas?
I mean, that it was financed by states.
States.
Yes. So for the British, that is why we had a British slaving enterprise on the Gold Coast.
Okay.
And they had their headquarters at Cape Coast Castle.
Okay.
So Cape Coast Castle was not for the slaves, but it was rather the headquarters,
administrative
headquarters for the British slaving enterprise on the Gold Coast. And so they had that enterprises.
Okay.
So
where do the Spanish fall in when it comes to slave trade?
On our coast here, the Spanish were not here.
Okay.
But the Spanish sponsored the Portuguese.
Okay.
So we'll say all the gold that were mined by the Portuguese on the Gold Coast were sent to Spain. Because during that time, Portugal was under Spain with the Queen Isabella II as their queen. I mean, when the first batch of the Portuguese landed at Shama and they found that small gold, went back to Spain
and brought more people.
And then
we found gold.
Yeah, we found gold.
Let's go kill him and take
immediately. Queen Isabella II marshaled forces
to come here.
So during that time, Portuguese was under Spain.
So I would really love to see the rock, the Anomabo rock.
Yes, we shall go there. Yeah. But one important message is the distribution of slaves.
Thank you, and we need to know that. Thank you. Yeah.
So, for example, cities and countries that benefited from the slavery in America included New York, Chesapeake, Charleston, Carolina, Boston, Rhode Island, Virgin Island, Georgia, Mississippi, Virginia, and New Orleans. You go to Caribbean, we have Cuba, Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Panama, Antigua, Costa Rica, Barbados, St. Kitts, St. Vincent, St. Thomas, Curacao, Haiti, Tundalap, and many more.
Of course.
Then to Brazil, 4.5 million blacks. To Rio de Janeiro.
So Neymar could be Ghanaian?
Oh, of course.
Oh, Neymar, come home. We're waiting for you.
To Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, Rio de Plaza, Pernambuco, Recife, Bahia, to the Guianas. So we have French Guiana, English Guiana, Dutch Guiana, Suriname, Trinidad and Tobago. Slaves were taken to Mexico, to Nova Scotia region of Canada. Slaves were taken to Java, to Indonesia, to Sri Lanka, where we send the fishing industry, to Malaysia, where we send the palm oil industry, to the Seychelles island of
where Tetepashi stole the.
Well,
He swallowed the cocoa.
yes.
This is amazing.
Then we refer to these countries as Maroonic countries. We talk of Maroons and we talk of those who ran away from their masters
Okay.
into the forest, came out with their villages and towns, which has now become prominent countries
Yeah.
like Chile, Ecuador, Peru, Argentina, Colombia, Uruguay, and Paraguay.
Wow.
Yes.
So the source of the beginning of the human race, life, the cities as we know them, originated from Africa.
Most of them. Most of them. Most of them.
That's amazing.
Yes. Through the slave trade, that is the influence of the black man in the new world.
Amazing. So for now, I mean, with this info, if there's more, we would want to hear it. But if you feel like we should check out,
Yeah, we should check out.
Thank you so much.
So we came through the gate of no return. Yeah, you see, in 1998, the gate of no return became the gate of return to our brothers and sisters in the diaspora. This was when two slaves, one in America, one in Jamaica, willed that their skeleton bones, because they found out that their ancestors were from the Gold Coast. So their skeleton bones should be brought back to Ghana when they died. And of course, in 1998, these two dead people were brought to Ghana.
They were brought home.
They were brought home. First through Fort Cormanton, as I told you, of the Cormanton slaves, who were so daring, very well known in the Caribbean. Yeah, so they first passed through Fort Cormanton, which produced one of the best historic slaves in the Americas. The second one was for William supplied more slaves than even Cape Coast again. Then the third place was Cape Coast Castle, where libations and classifications were poured for the gods of the land. And finally, the bones were interned at Anomabo. So in 1998, the gate of no return became the gate of return to our brothers and sisters.
That's amazing. Wow. And we want to say, we at Bankers, we want to say, return. Because from henceforth, we actually want to get things done the right way so that our brothers and sisters come to Anomabo in celebrations of who we've become. And so, whatever you want to know about William, just go to bankesemusicfestival.com because every information is going to be there. And this year, it's going to happen.
Good. So you are looking at the rock that gave the original name of the village. It's Obonoma. That means rock with birds. Yeah, you know, most of the villages along the coast were founded by hunters who have lived in the forest for so many years of their lives. They had an opportunity to come to the coast, and whatever they found interesting on the coast becomes their dwelling place. So the hunter came to the coast, discovered the white bird on the rock, became so very interesting to him. He went to the forest, brought his people,
and they named it Anomabo.
And they named their village Obonoma. But you know, because the Europeans could not speak our language, they changed the name of most of our villages
into their names.
So, for example, Elmina was Anomansa. Enoma onsa.
Like when you drink, it
doesn't finish. And it simply came from that farmer who discovered the sweet river founded his village, called his village Anomabo, because the stream was so sweet that Onuma the Portuguese named the village Elmina.
Elmina. Because they found gold.
Because they found gold over there. And we are talking of Fetu Kingdom, which is Cape Coast. So Cape Coast was formerly Fetu Kingdom.
That hence the Fetua fashion.
Hence the Fetua fashion. Then you come to Mori, gathering of animals.
Because animals used to gather.
The animals used to gather there. Hunters will come and hunt the animals over there.
Oh, okay.
They call the village gathering of animals. The Europeans will call it Mori.
Because they can't say
they can't say it. Yes. Obonoma became Anomabo. Yes. Then the French in a village called Amoku or Amoku. When they want to visit that village, the village with lots of serpents.
Oh, serpents. Okay.
Serpents.
So a village with lots of
serpents has now become salt pond.
Okay. So wait, why lots of serpents? There's a big gap. Yes. Is it because there was a lot of salt there, or
they never mined the salt over there before?
So where came the salt from?
So the village with lots of serpents has now shortened to become salt pond.
Wow. This is amazing information. Wow. I mean, we didn't have to call it salt pond. Like every time.
Of course.
I have brothers who are from there.
Yes.
And they say, oh, salt pond. But to hear this is actually. So there were lots of snakes.
Lots of snakes over there. And so
on the beach.
On the beach, even in the town. So when the whites are visiting that place, they will say, we are visiting the village with lots of serpents.
But so I get it. They had to refine it and use salt to make it not seem weird.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. But there are no more snakes out
there. Lots of them.
I ain't passing. But now this is amazing information. And we personally want to thank you for.
I mean, it goes on.
Yeah.
It goes on. Nkran became Accra. And Nkran simply means lots of ants.
Nkran. There were lots of ants in.
There were not lots of ants. But they had a migration.
Nkran.
They had a migration.
Yeah, migration.
That people who migrated to settle there came like an ant. So the person who discovered them coming from the sea, yes,
named them
Stepford.
Yeah, So out of fun, we got our names.
Yes. 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 There are people. They are supposed to be Nigerians. They migrated from Ile-Ife, one of the most powerful kingdoms in Europe. So they migrated from that place on the ocean. When landing on the coast, the one who saw them coming shouted, incredible.
What does that mean?
Lots of ants. Oh. So he referred to the people as ants.
That means, wow, a lot of ants.
Lots of ants. Because he thought the people were so many.
He thought they were ants.
And so he thought they were ants.
This is amazing. Mr. Yawson, this has been amazing. And we want to thank you so much for having us. Definitely, this information is going to go out to the world. And we hope and pray that a lot of our brothers and sisters in the diaspora will come home to visit. And also, we promise you the Abankesi Diaspora Ball coming December here. So keep your eye. When you come, you have to look for Mr. Yawson. This is the man of the hour right now. So keep your eye. Let's go.
finally, the one who brought the idea for the slave trade was Reverend Father Lord Casas of Spain.